Order. Second item of the Pledge of Allegiance. If you can please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 4, need a motion to approve the minutes dated October 16th. Oh, I apologize. A motion to adopt the agenda. We have support, or we have a motion by Drolet, supported by Ha. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion passes. Item number 4, approval of minutes dated October 16, 2019. Voted by Myjack, supported by Leonetti. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Public participation. Anyone in the public wish to speak? Seeing none, closing public participation. Item number 6A, Department Recommendation, Budget Amendment, Capital Improvement Fund, Comprehensive Facility Management Program, $139,761. Lynn?
I am requesting a budget amendment in the amount of $139,761. And this is to fund the Comprehensive Facilities Management Program. And what this program actually is, or I'll back up, the purchasing department solicited requests for qualifications on the Mitten site for this facilities management program. On September 24th of 2019, they received one response to the solicitation. The facilities management program is actually 3 separate major categories. It's buildings, it's equipment, and it's emergency plans. In the building module, they would gather all the as-built drawings, all the drawings of the renovations, the buildings specifications, and they would put this information in a readable format. They would scan all this information in paper copies and also any digital information. And when it's the capability of reading the contents of this documentation also makes it then searchable. In the building category, after they have all this information, they create a dashboard. So any of our trades personnel, contractors trying to do work on the buildings are able to use this user-friendly access, mobile access. In the equipment module, they would actually illustrate where all the equipment is located. And when I mean by equipment, it would identify boilers, rooftop units, pumps, switchgear, boilers, transformers. They would also include all the information regarding the equipment. So it would have information regarding the manufacturer, serial numbers, model numbers. It would give us inspection reports, also all the O&M manuals. It would also define parts lists, and it would by part number, and we could trigger the ordering of parts. Right now, when we do this, we often go back to the drawings. We're searching through file cabinets. And we lose a lot of productive time in this. For example, we had to replace a window in one of the buildings. I had to go back to the original building documents, and you're trying to get the color of the glass. So we use these documents. It isn't a case of just scanning and maybe somebody asks for the information once in a while. We are using this information all the time. And the emergency module, not only will it benefit F&O responders in an emergency, but it's also emergency like the fire department. It would have easy access to floor plans. It would indicate shutoffs for electrical and water shutoffs. It would contain material safety data sheets. It would identify chemicals in the building and where they're stored. They would have evacuation routes. It would have fire sprinkler information and all of our fire systems in the building. It would identify underground utilities information, and it would have emergency contact numbers, and also any action plans and any training videos. They also, once they gather all this information and it's all organized into files and subfiles, they create a very user-friendly dashboard. We feel that the amount of, if you ever came to our office, we could show you the rooms that we have filled with drawings and information. As long as you have the buildings, we have to retain that information. We also want to capture institutional knowledge. We have an awful lot of institutional knowledge, and as it goes out the door, you start from square one. It'll also aid in the bidding of different services. And one good example that we'd like to use the system for is the stormwater permit form, or permit. It's very document-oriented. We will be audited. We have approximately 400 catch basins. We have to inspect these. We have to show what ones were inspected. We could put all this information into the system. Also, any building that is considered a higher risk, which is the animal shelter, we have to do weekly or every 2 weeks, we have to do an inspection of that site and be able to produce the documents. We have to do the sweeping. We'd like to incorporate all this into the system and also tie in the work order system. Every year I come before you in the name of the capital plan, and I talk about equipment. We would like to give you more information regarding the equipment. We can give you pictures so you can identify with the equipment. You can see the condition. You can see the maintenance reports. You can see how much money is being spent. So that's what we would like to see in the future. It's going to take a while to do this, but we think it's really the right direction to go.
Motion by Druge, supported by Sauger. We have some speakers, and I put my name on it if you don't mind me going real quick. If I can ask Jaco to come up, please.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Jaco. Thank you. Couple questions for you. I understand the need and the want. I understand how this will be utilized. My concern is that we're asked to approve $139,761 out of the capital plan, and then $547,000 to the IT budget over the next 5 years for the $114,270 for the licensing fee for each year. I look at that, and I looked at the contract, and in the contract, and again, I'm not an attorney, it says basically all the information that was inputted, we'll get that back like in a dump, but not usable with their interactions or anything. So you're stuck forever. So that'll be, and after looking at your item for the $2,690,000, that'll be an additional $114,260 added on every year forever. So looking at this, I went and looked and said, okay, what do we at the county have now that could be possibly similar? And I'm not sure. ImageSoft, I know you have all that going on with your uploading stuff. So I know you've done some work talking to Lynn and making sure that we're not wasting money. So I appreciate your due diligence on this as well. But what I do have a serious question, are you personally, are you familiar with the GIS?
I'm familiar with GIS and
Okay.
what it does for us, yes.
And let me jump ahead one more question. Sarah Title III reporting facilities for emergency management, which locates for the fire department and all the other stuff where emergency shutoffs are, chemicals are located in a building. What program are they using for that?
To be honest with you, I don't know what program they are using for
Okay,
that.
I know they do for fire and police. There's something that they have, a company that has chemicals, so that the MSDS sheets, so that going into the fire, the police going into a facility, they know where the chemicals are located. They know via computer programming, and I don't know if it's GIS or not. But going back to GIS, I know it's a layer thing, and now it's layered. You can say not only where boundaries are, but you can say where all of our assets are under the ground in the community, where all the water, the sewer, the gas, I mean, just everything. Could GIS, with your expertise and your people, be used? Because it's already on the list of the almost $3 million of annual costs. We're already paying for it. Is that something we can maybe take a look at or see if the Sarah Title III reporting facilities programming could be used?
Yeah, so when it comes to GIS in our county, the way that it's used today is mostly integration with case management systems. So I'll try to explain that. Public Works, for instance, they have an application called NextGen that they use for waste systems in the county on the SCADA network. And in there it has a GIS component where they can build out maps and they can locate all their assets. That NextGen is actually an asset management application. So all their assets go in there and then they can map them out on the maps all over the county where the different assets go. But like I said, it has a very powerful app behind it, which is the NextGen system. You know, in really any situation where we use GIS, it's mostly in conjunction with some sort of other application when it comes to asset management itself. The option is you can build out maps in GIS, you know, physical maps. It takes a lot of labor and skilled people to do that. The way GIS is set up in our county, the Department of Planning runs it. What we do is we stand up the environment for them. We don't have any expertise in our department as far as GIS is concerned, other than the database back end of it, you know, stuff like that, but not GIS itself. It is something we're looking at to assist planning in the future because things are definitely changing. So what I'm saying is there is ways to do that. What this specific application does, and we asked to be, you know, when we started discussing this with Lynn's group, we asked that they can do a demo for us so we can see exactly what it does. We also, as you mentioned, ImageSoft on-base system that we have, which is a scanning system. And that was our first thought, you know, why can't we just scan that into on-base? What this actually does is it's specifically designed for, and you probably know that, but it's specifically designed for blueprints, for the, you know, to really ingest blueprints, things like that, into a scanning system. And it has some intelligence built into it so that it can recognize the blueprints, put data where it's supposed to go, do some character recognition. You can do character recognition in many different aspects. But for us to do something like that in on-base, it will be almost a reinvention of the wheel of what this company does. So it's going to take a lot of effort and resources to get to that point.
And again, this is the Cadillac. I get it and I understand it. But I also look at, we're doing it right now today without that. And yes, the efficiencies, I 100% understand for parts, just for everything. I get it. But with the mapping portion of it, I think the GIS should be taken a look at. And I think that whatever they're using emergency management for the Sarah Title III reporting facilities, of where the chemicals are located in the building and all that. Because if we already have something, okay, then maybe we have to have two programs. One we're currently for all the stuff to be loaded up into, and we don't have that ease of access for that port. But then again, for knowing where everything's located, GIS will always be there. We get into this and we pay $600,000 in 5 years, and the program's done if we don't renew it, and you just get a lump sum. So for 5 years, we had the ability to have it on an iPad. I, as one commissioner, I can only speak for myself. I'm not looking to spend $600,000 for 5 years when you and your expertise and your staff, with all the stuff you have, might be able to come up with something similar that we're currently paying. That's just my 2 cents. Next speaker is Commissioner Drillette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you touched on some of my questions. I guess these questions are kind of for Lynn. So, well, Lynn, you gave a very comprehensive description of the value that this system would provide to the county. And you outlined the ways in which how we currently provide that information are very time-consuming and bulky or difficult or challenging or less complete in a number of ways. But I'm weighing also the $600,000 that we're looking to allocate for the 5 years, and I'm wondering, is the offset to this increased ability of these programs, is the resulting change to the county a reduction in personnel that we will need to keep at the county that is currently providing this work? If they're spending a lot of time digging out these programs and digging out to look these things up, you know, can we phase out a position, you know, as a result of this? Or, you know, how do we see offsetting resulting savings? Is it in money or time?
Just increase in productivity. I won't stand up here and say to you, we'll reduce the number of tradespeople that we have. But it will make us more efficient. We'll be able to get things back in service quicker. We'll be able to, you know, a lot of times our tradespeople, they're very familiar with certain buildings more than maybe the other tradesmen. This way we can, you know, if that tradesman that really knows certain buildings isn't available, the other tradesman can jump right in and we can minimize any kind of damage if you're not familiar with where the shutoffs are. So it's increase in productivity. It's getting things up and running faster.
But doesn't increasing productivity of employees generally mean that you need less employees to do the same amount of work because the productivity of the employees is growing substantially? I mean, couldn't we at some point take advantage of this investment and reduce the number of employees because the productivity has grown so substantially?
I'd like to say that I could. I don't see that as the outcome. We have an aging, you know, infrastructure that we're trying to maintain. It'll just make the information readily available. What we do now, one of the tradespeople can be up on a roof and needs some information. He's got to come off the roof, come back to the office or to the field office and start looking.
Now, Jaco mentioned that, well, rather that you know, his in-house ability to perform some limited version of these functions would be very difficult because of the you have to practically have, you know, a substantial dedication of his office to just trying to accomplish a small percentage of this or some percentage of this. But at $600,000 for 5 years, we could hire somebody for $125,000 a year to do nothing but update our systems in-house and then not have to, you know, nothing at the end of 5 years potentially. I mean, is that an alternative that we could hire people to do this instead of paying the $600,000 and just, would that be cheaper long term?
You mean IT people?
Yeah, I guess it's more of an IT question. I mean, if we gave you $125,000 a year, Jaco, could you make this happen? Or some part of it, and then we would have it forever and not have to renew every year for, you know, pay another $125,000 or?
That's an interesting question. and you know, it's not just about the personnel. This is actually something we deal with on a regular basis. When you look at information technology today, we have an office of 50 people. The industry out there is so much bigger than what we are. You know, let's just take us versus Oakland County. They have about 200 people in total. And even in their office, when you start developing in-house, and we do in-house development in our office, we have a small staff that can do that, and we've written applications and still continue to do. We've done one for the sheriff's pretty recently. The issue is then after the fact you have to maintain that application. That is very resource intense to maintain an application because it doesn't just mean that I've put out the application there now. Now I need to on an annual basis look at that application and write or review it and make sure I do upgrades to it. And when I say upgrades, what I'm talking about, before you even improve the quality of the application, in other words, let it do more things than what it did yesterday, I have to keep that application in line with the latest Microsoft technologies because I write it in Microsoft technologies. I have to keep it in line with the latest security updates. So those things are demanded of me to do. So number one, I have a development situation to maintain that application. I also, it comes down to you have one person that developed this app, so say you have a really good person that you get to do that, but then you have to do the maintenance of it, that's the one aspect. The other aspect that's also a very strong argument is every time we do something like this, if it's something that's already available out on the market to buy, that's those people's bread
Specialty,
and butter.
right.
Their specialty. So here I come, I want to reinvent the wheel, write something new, and I have to keep the same skill level. I don't do business to keep my office up and running. All I have to do is keep that one app up and running for the county. From a business standpoint, it's a very hard sell to say that I'm going to do a better job than what that company is going to do. And I completely understand the money aspect of it. I completely understand that it's very expensive to do that. I just think as a county we have to think about things like that. Because for me to become an in-house development shop, I definitely have to increase my development capacity and then the after support of that. The fact that I have 5 people now on staff that can do that really doesn't mean much. If you look at our county as a whole, I have about 300 back-end applications, server applications, that I have to support. And probably 50 or so are in-house written, the rest of them are all purchased. So that's the balance, and that's why I'm saying it's a very tricky question when it comes to...
Jaco, I think you've explained it pretty well. I mean, I agree that it seems like it'd be very difficult to match the output of a company that does nothing but that particular thing with some sort of generalist who's trying to do a bunch of things. But at the same time, I'm looking at, just it seems from the perspective of just one board member, that we're continuing to outsource these special applications to outside companies and pay for their continual maintenance and operation of that. And as a result, we should be seeing a savings somewhere else. Since we're outsourcing it, maybe we don't need as much in-house stuff. So I'm looking for the benefits of these efficiencies, whether that's we don't need as many people because we're outsourcing all the work to outside companies, or we saving money, because we're outsourcing it. It's being done therefore more efficiently. But it seems like we're just always adding more cost, getting these efficiencies, but not seeing the benefits of them from just looking at, looking for where I sit. When you explain it, it does make sense. I just want to see, well, all right, well, we're less people than we need because we're outsourcing all this to everybody else. The more we outsource, the fewer people we should need. Or somehow the efficiency is not happening, not manifesting itself in some capacity. So those are the only questions I had, and I thank you for your explanations. Thank you.
Next, Chair Smith.
Thank you. Hi, Jaco. Hi, Lynn. So, Lynn, normally you bring things up, and I'm 100% behind it. But I'll tell you, this is probably the first time that I have at least a little issue with it. And it kind of goes to what has been being said before. I'll bring it back from the fire department perspective. And I don't know what Mount Clemens is, so I apologize. But I know Clinton's the second one in on most of our stuff. And we have all of that information electronically loaded and book form in all of our rigs. So, I mean, a lot of all the emergency, the FDCs and the locations and everything is already pre-planned for most of the larger buildings and all the buildings that have sprinklers. So some of that stuff is taken care of by the people that actually will come in and need it. Jaco, I understand some of these applications are difficult to carry on, and you'd have to almost have a new department to learn what's going on to recreate what you're looking at purchasing. But in this case, I'm missing something, because to me, what we're doing is creating electronic catalog. In this, so you can say that if we got to keep maintaining it. Well, in electronic catalog, we just have to make sure that when we replace one boiler with another, that's able to be entered in as a replacement for the previous boiler. And the window colors and all that stuff, I mean, eventually, just like we're scanning in documents, it would seem like constant data entry into a system that we created that was more of an electronic catalog that was accessible to your workers on the roof or wherever it might be. It seems like hiring a few people to create this electronic catalog for you, then owning it is any chance we get to do something like that, we have to try. I mean, to me, because we have many applications that we can't do that, right? And I agree, there are many applications that it would just be inefficient to try to, start a new company that does exactly what someone does. But unless I'm missing something on here, this is more of and quite honestly, I mean, maybe I'm the old school, and I guess I am. I would rather have a catalog in the maintenance room of every building to open up to, rather than, on my phone trying to figure out, how to find this, part number or whatever. I mean, that's just me, old school, and it's always good. You always want to have a backup catalog anyway, because if something goes down, I mean, that's a different story. But I think a lot of people still like having manuals and things like that to open. But I'm just going to encourage us to look at developing something like this on our own and actually owning it at the end of the day, and not having to continually pay $114,000 kind of to be held hostage, because once it's done, it's done. I mean, they might add, like I say, they might have to replace things when we replace things, but after it's all in there, I'm trying to figure out, and maybe you can help me with this, what they have to do every year, year after year. So I don't know where the answer comes from, but I think that this might be, at least in my head, the easiest opportunity to try to actually create something on our own that works and own it for the rest of time. The end. I mean, it's kind of a question, and it's kind of my point. So I don't know if there's an answer to it or not, but this makes sense to me, at least, and I think a couple other commissioners.
Commissioner Druzé.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Although I understand where a lot of the comments are coming from, I think Lynn hit the nail on the head when she said we've got an aging infrastructure that is getting very, very difficult to find parts for and to fix. On one side, and on the other side, we've got aging employees. I don't see a lot of people going into the boiler business anymore, and finding people that know what the heck they're doing and looking at some of this stuff. I actually think this is a good idea to get all the stuff into one area, catalog, like you said, everything out, but have the ability to replace not only the parts, but when people are taking a look at it, to have them know what's going on, where it is, why it is, and how it needs to be fixed. At $114,000 to $140,000 to start, $114,000 to maintain it. Between all the schedules for maintenance, between all the parts that need to be bought and replaced, between all the things countywide and all the buildings and everything else that we've got, I can't imagine the amount of hardware that we actually have to go through and replace and make sure that everything is moving well. And then when something like a chiller or something breaks, where do you go to get the parts? Where do you find something to fix it, and so on? So I actually think this is a pretty good idea going forward. We've got, and the comment was as far as having institutional knowledge of where all this stuff is, when it needs to get looked at, and how it needs to be fixed, I think is very, very important in the long run. on a lot of these systems at the county. You know as well as I do that we have things that are 20 years old and we have things that are 2 years old. And the 2-year-old stuff getting fixed is not a problem, but the 20-year-old stuff is a major problem on a lot of this stuff. So I actually support this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Either one of you, I guess, can answer this question. I get the idea of cataloging everything and organizing it and using the software to do that, you know, and reviewing the stuff. You know, you're talking about embedding film for different shut-off valves and stuff like that. And Jacob, because I know where we've talked about this a lot. You know, it's the software industry that's doing this to us. You know, they'll give you the product for 145, and then you're stuck with it at 114 to use it for the rest of your life. Going along a little bit what Chairman Smith said, I mean, is there any way we can sort of reverse it on them? In other words, I'll pay for a couple years to give Lynn a chance to catalog everything, organize it all, put it into this nice software database, and then somehow, some way, maybe print it out into manuals, we'll have it updated, current, and then quit the company. I mean, we'll have a good catalog of everything that's out there, and then based on that, come up with a system, not necessarily, could even be paper-based, I guess, because once we have it cataloged, you know, you can take the data and put it on a thumb drive for the video and stuff where the valve is and everything like that. You know, use them initially and pay their upfront cost, which is usually discounted, to get the data, and then at some point say, we don't need your product anymore. We've got everything organized, and come up with a system that can keep up with it, whether it's paper-based or just even an Excel spreadsheet. I don't know. Like, can either one of you answer that or foresee that? You know.
Well, I completely understand what you're saying, you know, but I can just tell you when it comes to getting the data back, you're not going to get the data back in the organized, structured format that you have it today. And I'm saying today, if you have this program, they're just going to give you the data back. And that is unstructured.
Right.
It's just a bunch of fields.
Digits,
and,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, no,
So-
I've seen it.
So then from there, you need to then reorganize it in whatever system you're going to do after the fact. That's what we talked about, data conversion and things like that. But so it's not that easy to just say, you know, let's do it this way or that way. And obviously, these companies are smart.
No, and I get it. I know that they're very smart, and you know, and like you've said, this is the trend that we're going.
And I'm not against development. I love development. It's just it's a position you have to take. And currently my position is in our organization, if something has been developed by an organization that focuses on solving a problem, for me to come behind them, reinvent the wheel, and try and solve that problem is going to take me, number one, 2-3 years just to do that before I get to the, you know, close to where they are today.
You know, and I don't mean to cut you
So
off.
that's
And I get that. And
So,
yeah.
so you have to make decisions around that, and we focus on niche markets, things that is not out in the market, or things that we can do to join things together, where one app does some for you, another app, and then we do something in the middle that can really solve the problem for them completely. So that's kind of with the amount of developers and that we have today that we kind of focus on. So it's not a, you know, and I completely understand what Commissioner Drolet said, and I think every one of you, and that's a concern of mine too, is the money behind this and where this is going. And it unfortunately does not translate necessarily in monetary savings all the time. It's about improving business process. When you do that, somebody has to pay for it. And that's going to be us, the consumer. And that's where the money goes. The increase, at least, in cost of this. So, I mean, that's part of it. But I mean, I cannot give you a straightforward, clear answer and say this is what we need to do. Most certainly, I understand what you're saying when, you know, we can create a catalog, we can do those type of things. I think all of us has done that throughout our lives, whether it's done in a book or, you know, however you do things. But I do agree with Lynn. When it comes to efficiencies and you make these things available electronically, it really adds a lot of efficiency to the way you do that. It adds a lot of security. That's just the way that things are being done today and moving forward. You know, everybody is moving in that direction. And to keep on, like Lynn said, she has to keep those records, you know, all those type of things. When you do that electronically, it's so much easier. But $600,000 is a lot of money. I understand that.
Just, I guess the only other question I have would be, you know, we're going to look at your thing next. It's like Commissioner Carabelli said, it's $2 million for a quarter, and now we're going to add another theoretically 25,000 or 30,000 for this.
Point of information is $2,690,000. You'll be adding on $114,270
for the whole year,
just
not just for the quarter, though.
Per year.
Per year, right. So we had a discussion like this in one of our budget sessions. Some software benefits the public completely, and I get that. Like, there'll be things at Public Works when they're going to get like a soil erosion. Some of those, so some of those costs can be passed directly to the licensing fee or whatever. This product here is really a benefit to the county, in a sense, in maintaining our buildings. So I don't see how you can get the public to pay for something like that. You know, it's just got to be part of the ordinary course of business. But I think in going forward, we have to start to take a look at specifically what these software things, who they're benefiting the most, and can we recoup some fees back from people who use them. This is completely out of that realm because it's facilities and operations. It's something that we need to do to maintain our buildings, so I don't see this as being one. But so this doesn't concern you here, Lynn, but this is something to think about going forward because these costs are never going to end. They're never going to end from what you're saying. And you're right. Even if we use them up front and got all the data and then wanted to transfer it into our own software, you're right, we're going to get some kind of weird data that nobody can interpret. So it's a real problem that I don't see any end to. You know, as long as we're going to be beholden to these neat software packages, we're going to be beholden to these increased costs that we see coming up on the next item here. Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Ha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Janko, I don't think the discussions, and I'm glad to hear you say 600,000 is a lot of money. I don't think the discussion is developing the program. To have that requirement placed on your department would probably add additional costs to purchasing. It's kind of like making a cake. You want to follow the directions or you want to start them on your own and hope you have a successful cake. The data today, I look at this as data management. And GM undertook this back in the mid-90s where, and yes, you are old, Chairman, when we talk catalogs, they eliminated all catalogs, and it took them 7 or 8 years to do that, so that electronically the dealerships had the data right available to them. But what that did was reduce the time the car had to be in service, the technician working on the vehicle. They've even got plug-ins now inside your car that I watched the guy put that little hook in there and he said, oh, I know what's wrong with your car right now. So the benefit is definitely there. But Lynn, I got a little confused when you were explaining where the data currently is now. Of all those criteria that you had indicated, where, like, pick one.
It's in our office. So we have several sections where we have volumes of drawings from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, all the way up to present time. We have file cabinet after file cabinet of information. And it's not like we can get rid of the information. We can if we demolish the building, but we end up having to maintain because we're always going back to the documents.
is somebody keeping that, you're talking hard copy data now, am I
Yes.
correct? Is somebody maintaining that hard copy data now if you're replacing parts on something somewhere? So that's manually being done?
Well, I mean, well, if we order parts, you know, first they research to try and find the part. Then we're putting it on purchase recs. And so we'd have to go to different formats to retrieve if it's the same information. If
Okay,
it's the
if-
same part, then we'd have to go to purchase recs.
If this data management system was purchased, would it require people from your staff sitting with the individuals inputting the data so they understand what's being inputted into the system?
No,
I mean, if it's garbage in, it's garbage
Yeah.
out.
they actually gather all the information, they take the pictures, they retrieve the information. You know, and certainly we're going to make sure that what they're inputting, I mean, I won't say whether we totally walk away until the finished product, but we'll be taking a look at it as we go along.
So once the data has been collected and is put into a database system, wouldn't it be more cost beneficial to have somebody from either your group or his group manage the data at that point rather than committing to 5 years at a, what'd you say, 139,000?
The,
Wouldn't that
it's a
be,
total of 596. The first year is 139. Year 2 through 5 is 114.
so is this a 5-year
It's a
project
5-year.
of data management and collection?
Yes. And then they will also train our people, and we can also start doing the input.
So, Jacob, we're gonna play magician here. So if you had this system, this ARC document solution system available to you now, Lynn's saying it's 5 years of data collection and management. Could you do it faster or better, or even know what you're doing?
I don't think that's really the issue when it comes to 114,000. I'm not 100% sure exactly how this works with this company, but I can guarantee you the software come into play here. So that software that you use for this package, part of that 140,000 will go towards that. So that software has to be updated, upgraded on an annual or semi-annual basis. They will keep on recoding and improving the software. So that's a big part of the cost. I can show you that.
Point of information, I just want to help, in the contract, it says that it's 5 years and then automatically renewing year to year to year. So just so you know that there's an automatic renewal in it, and the way it reads, the contract is after 5 years, if we cancel them, that all they're going to do is give us our information back,
That's
but
all.
not in the format that is usable. So I
No,
just want
nothing.
to,
Thank you.
So that's when your data is not really usable.
It's not value added at that point.
Exactly.
I think I'm done, but thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. We've got a large complex buildings, and they're very old and ancient. And I mean, in my mind, I mean, this is trying to get the carburetor right. You know, we can operate okay the way we've been doing it, but it's not very efficient. I think a public, remember the old public works building over there on Grossbeck with the road commission there? They had stuff stacked on case upon cases. No one knew that anything was that. It was all white, old yellow paper. No one knew what anything was that. They just guessed. They just threw it out or they ignored it. I understand that the need to say, well, let's just do it ourselves. But how much staff is that going to take? How many people are we going to have to employ? How many more inefficiencies? I mean, that's going to be expensive in itself. I mean, there's just, I think we're being think we'd be making a mistake trying to dump it on our staff that doesn't have enough employees as it is, based on the reductions we've already given them, or the expertise. I mean, we don't need to reinvent the wheel ourselves. Now, if we just don't think it's worth it, now that's a different story. Then you say, well, just let's let them figure it out and go down and try to dig around and try to find the box and let old Ralph and the guys go try to dig up the old documents, see if they can figure out what was put in here 50 years ago or 30 years ago or 20 years ago. But that's not efficient. And I think I see the benefits of what they're trying to accomplish. And yeah, I don't like to spend the money either, but it's in the budget. I mean, it's not like it's, well, it will be soon. It's expensive operating this county. It's administration of this county. I mean, we can be pound foolish, or, I mean, Commissioner Douget knows that, trying to find parts and everything else for things that are they were built back in the day. I mean, it's going to be hard. I can't even find it in my own file sometimes, my own place. So, anyway, I think I support this. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but we've got to operate efficiently, and there's inefficiencies built into the system. Someone's going to spend 8 hours trying to find documents that may or may not even exist. So, I support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Chair Smith.
Thanks. So you're right. There are large buildings and complex and old things, and I don't disagree with progress. What I disagree with is locking ourselves into $114,000 a year in perpetuity for something that once it's done, and there's really not a lot of maintenance that goes along with it. So if you came to me and said, for $596,000, we are going to find a company out there of computer experts, a software company, and they're going to develop something for us, I guarantee you for over $500,000 that we can actually come up with somebody that would take this task on, have it all cataloged, and allow it to be manually entered by our IT or our F&O for the next 50 years, instead of getting ourselves locked into $114,000 extra a year, every year, forever. We can say that it costs money, and you're right, it does cost money. But when we have an opportunity to spend money one time, and I'm not even saying this possible, but I would like to see this has been going on this way for forever. Before we automatically jump to a never-ending contract, I would like to at least ask that we could go out, kind of like the jail bed. We came here with the jail beds, and we got to do this right now, this is a contract, and then we put the brakes on for a second, and through a lot of work, we were able to find something less expensive that did it. I don't want to see us, just because of efficiency and security and all of these great buzzwords, us jump into something without there are plenty of companies out there that will be willing for $596,000 to develop something, put it all together, and give it to us as our own for the future. And then every 5 years, we'll have another $500,000 in our budget. So that's my only problem with this, Lynn. Not that I don't think that we should be moving towards the future and that we should be looking through dusty catalogs from the 1950s forever. I don't think that. I think we should move forward. I just think there's a better way than an ongoing licensing fee that will never end unless we end it, and then we'll have to start over again because we won't have access to that, and we'll have to start over. So I would really just like to see first if there's any way that we can contact or put out a bid to say, hey, can you develop something that actually would put all of our stuff in one system that we could actually retrieve and add. It just seems like that would be our first choice rather than finding someone that has this already set up and just waiting to catalog us and charge us $114,000 a year forever. Because once the work is done, it's done for the most part, unless we have major wholesale changes. All the items in this catalog will be the same once they are done forever, except for individual replacements. So that's going to be the reason that I vote no on this, Lynn. But I'd like to see, if it doesn't go down, I'd like to see another method attempted to get this done. So, sorry for the no vote.
Commissioner Drollet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this question might be for Crystal, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but Do you know, it's a little unclear to me looking through material, was this project budgeted in the 2019 budget? Do you know? So it was in the capital plan for 2019. Okay. So we budgeted in 2019 $580,000 for this project, but we're only going to be spending in 2019 $149,000. Yeah, we actually saving $350,000. That's pretty good. All right, and I point out, I notice on item 6E that we're being asked to approve maintenance agreements for the first quarter of 2020 to the tune of $2.7 million, and various maintenance agreements for various programs and so forth. I guess what you've informed me of, Crystal, has probably changed my mind. I was inclined to be concerned about approving this project, but if it's something that was in the budget and it's coming in under the budget amount, it certainly lessens the concern I have for this, although it doesn't change Chairman and other people's concern about the direction we're going with all these maintenance agreements that we're locking ourselves into.
It was 480 for 2019 and then 50 in 20 and 50,000 in 2021. The total project they had in the plan was for 580,000. So it's still for the 2019 year, 139 of the 480.
So it still falls within the budgeted amount.
Right, for what you had set aside for capital improvements.
Okay. Thank you, Crystal. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Sauger.
Now, Lynn, in your professional mind and Jaco, do you think there's a cheaper way out? If not, we got to go with this like an insurance program. You got to pay the insurance to keep everything going. But do you honestly think there's somebody out there that will say, hey, I can do it cheaper?
Point of information, at no point was I looking to get somebody to do it cheaper when I brought this up. Of what we existingly have at our, that we're already paying for is my point. Could GIS be utilized as a layer system? I'm not looking to, they already went out and they got a number for doing the work. So I wanted to clarify that so I'm not being misspoke.
And I also just want to emphasize it. At the end of the day, it all depends on what you want the system to do. The system that Lynn was talking about, it's not just a catalog system. It's about scanning. It's about all that, the intelligent scanning. That's technology that it's not easy to, easy is not really the big problem. It's possible to code, but it's expensive. It's time. It's a lot of design and being able to do everything. So it's really not comparing apples to apples. If you just want to create a catalog system completely, there's probably ways that we can do just a catalog system simpler. But then to take your blueprints and scan them in is going to be significantly more time consuming and so forth. So it all depends on, at the end of the day, on exactly what you want to accomplish by doing this. So when you ask, is it cheaper? I don't think you're going to do it cheaper if you want all the functionality that this system provides you.
Yeah, Lynn, I've seen you come up to that microphone too many times over the years, and you've always done what is best for the county and the cheapest way possible, and you've always recommended the best. So I support you in your program. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall.
Thanks again, Mr. Chair. I guess I'm a little confused again on why this is in capital improvements instead of in Janko's budget. Aren't we talking data acquisition?
The actual hardware, the company to do the original 139 is in Lynn's budget. The actual after that, after the first year, then it goes to ITs for their annual
Okay, so
costs.
it does go to his budget.
After the, well, it says right on page 9 on the bottom.
Oh, I'm talking about the original.
Oh. On page 9,
Both.
it states that year one budget amendment, capital plan in the amount of $139,763. Years 2 through 5, IT budget.
Okay. So then it does go back to your budget.
At that point in time, yes.
You gotta really like that. But, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Couple of last questions. Jaco, all the scanning that was done for all the different departments, the clerk and just everywhere, we've spent a lot of money on scanning. We've never done F&O scanning at all.
No, we haven't done scanning for F&O.
Well, first of all, that, number one, needs to happen. We need to digitize so you do have it available through the computer. My question is, all the stuff that got scanned, what programs did they get scanned into?
So the system we use to scan information in is OnBase, or you refer to ImageSoft. That's the integrator or the company that helps us integrate that. But OnBase is the company that, or the product that we use to scan everything into. And that's pretty much a database.
Right.
And what you do is you build a key system or a folder system, if you can equate it to your office, where you have a folder system where you put all your files.
Sort of like her
her
file system, it'll be now, instead of in her files in metal cabinets, it'll be in a file system on a computer.
But it's done in such a way that it's easy to build workflows around it and search. So it has to be very searchable. So if you, like what Lynn talked about, if you have to find something on your phone, and you can go ahead, type in a keyword, and you can find the document within a few seconds, and you have the document.
Agreed, but all the documents that we scanned for this image, whatever you called it.
OnBase, yep.
So are we able to sort that?
Everything that we've scanned in so far, those things are sorted.
How are you able to find them?
By using your key system as you did it. We did that for the documents here at Board of Commissioners as well.
So
same thing.
basically, you could do the same thing, it's just not going to be on a special app on the phone.
You can do the same thing. It's not on a special app on the phone. Like I said, this solution is a turnkey solution, specifically designed for that purpose.
And
That's
listen,
the difference.
and I understand, number one, it needs to happen somehow. Okay, I'm looking at the $600,000 over the 5 years. I'm looking at the end of that 5 year, if you didn't renew it, it's done. They do a dump. There's your stuff. Now you got to figure out what you're going to do with all this information that's going to be garbly-gook to me, right? And then figure out something, either a new company or stay on forever. Well, being that you're already paying for this image, whatever you called it, what is, and I'm not wanting to put you on the spot, but is it, since we're already paying for this company?
Well, we're paying for what we use today. Every time you add something new, you pay for new licenses.
But for 5 years, is it going to be over $600,000 to use the same software?
No, but it's also not going to provide you the functionality that the application provides you today. That's what I'm...
No, and I understand. And
I completely understand.
And I'm trying to
where
look
you're
at something, and it boils down to efficiency. And Lynn, I respect that. But I said to myself, I said, what is the cost of efficiency? Is it $100,000? Is it $500,000? Is it $2 million? Where do you say efficiency? Commissioner Drollet said, well, is it going to eliminate a position long-term? No. Well, what's the price on efficiency? I don't know the answer to that, other than it's going to cost us $600,000 additionally for 5 years, and who knows after that what company, if that one's still around or whatever. So I know there's a need. I'd like to see if the GIS system, mapping, how it's all layered, could be utilized personally. Whatever they use for the Sarah Title III reporting facilities, I'd like to see that, to see if that's a possibility. And then, being that it can be done in the ImageSoft, and if it's a heck of a lot cheaper than the $600,000, I'd like to rather see that personally. I'm just one commissioner. And no other speakers, so with that, a motion is already on the table. Please vote. Thank you. The next item, B, is the agreement for ARC Document Solutions Comprehensive Facility Management Program for $596,841, which you've just been explained. Motion by Brown, supported by Ajuse. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
The motion passes 6-4.
Motion passes 6-4. Thank you, Lynn. Item number C, Budget Amendment Capital Improvement Fund, Teller Cash Register System, Project Cost Reduction of $10,950. Jacob?
Yeah, that doesn't happen often that I come to the board with this. Yeah, this product, after they started doing a deep dive, found out there's a few things that they don't really need. One of them was a $4,100 4150 on-site walkthrough that they decided not to do. And then there was also some solution component, it's all in your documentation, that was removed. But there was another item where they have to do data transfer to BS&A. That's the treasurer system, and that was $3,300 and a $250 processing fee, which make the net reduction $10,950.
Seeing no discussion, please vote. Motion passes. Item number D, agreement. Motion by Myjack, supported by Haw. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion passes. Item number E, Agreement Information Technology Maintenance Agreement for the first quarter of 2020 for $2,690,131.84. And before we have a motion, Jaco, that $114,270, does that need to be added to that? Because it'll be...
Yeah, it was not part of this.
So I should divide that 114, or no, how do you want to do that? 114,260 or 70, I can't. It's for the first quarter, and we got to take a quarter of that, so bear with me 1 second.
Well, the thing is, the
Okay.
first capital payment that's going to take place in Lynn's budget.
Okay, I apologize, we'll hold off and we'll have to do a budget amendment.
Exactly.
So with that said, do we have a motion for the $2,690,131.84? Motion by Brown, supported by Leonetti. I do have a couple of questions. I don't think I see any other speakers. Real quick, Jaco, I did look at a couple of these. Most of them went up from what they were previously. A couple did go down, but most of them went up. Now, my question for you, is this maintenance agreements, correct? Not licensing?
Maintenance agreements and licensing, they all kind of different. So when you sign up for, one of them is, for instance, Motorola. I think it's around about $140,000 a year. That is for the Motorola package, their licensing and everything, but it's also for the maintenance of when something goes wrong with that system, they pretty much fix it for us. They manage and maintain that. From our standpoint, we take care of the initial troubleshooting, and then many times we fix the problem ourselves. But when there's a major problem or a system outage, it is a system that's designed by them. We don't have the source code. They need to come in and, you know, fix whatever problems there is. So that's really a mix of that in most instances. So it's maintenance and licensing fees. But it's not like that in every single case.
Okay, Commissioner Ha?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Janko, I'm trying to follow with the 2020 budget here. These licensing agreements, where do they fall under expenditures?
They're in my
Contract.
general fund budget. It's I'm trying to remember the number, the total number for 2020.
Possibly repairs and maintenance?
Repairs and maintenance, that could be, that's 4,400,000.
Well,
That
no,
is-
if you take the,
That is where it's at.
Is that
it's
it?
about $10 million. It's 10 million.
It's around about 4 million, just over 4 million, if I remember correctly. This is the first quarter of next year. So what I,
Oh, some of
if
them
you,
are in your fault?
if you remember, Commissioner, this past year, we brought to you in the first quarter, and we brought it this year. We brought these ones that I'm bringing to you now. We brought it to you in, I think it was February, round about there. Obviously, for next year, we want to bring these things ahead of time so that we can go ahead and pay before it's actually due. So what I do is every quarter, I bring to you the maintenance items for that quarter. So first 3 months, it goes throughout the year. And I came to you this year probably 4, maybe 5 times, because I think I brought one of them separately, which was Microsoft. So I come to you with that quarterly spending, and there's usually, the biggest one is the first quarter. That's where because what we try to do is, from a finance standpoint, they ask us if we can try and make our maintenance agreements to coincide with our financial year, which is January 1st to end of December. So first quarter is our biggest one. The ones that we cannot change, for instance, Microsoft, they're not going to change it for us. Theirs is end of April, and it will stay like that. So, but it's easier, I think, for finance as well, so they don't have to appropriate money across years. So that's what we try to do, and that's why the first quarter is the biggest one.
All set, Commissioner?
I think so. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Druze?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jaco, we got hacked. Was that about a month, 2 months ago? That it happened on a Saturday. We didn't get everything up and running until Tuesday or something.
Are you talking about the county network that was down?
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't get hacked. There's a big
Oh,
difference. No.
What was explained to me was that we got hacked.
No.
Yeah, really. Do any of these agreements coincide with what had happened?
No.
So we can't charge anybody back for having the system down or anything else?
No, if something like that happens, I can assure you, Commissioner, we hold our vendors accountable.
Well,
when systems go down.
okay, what was it that happened then?
Community mental health, are you referring to, maybe?
If it's community mental health, they got ransomware about
Maybe
3
it
months
was
ago.
community mental health.
Different.
Yeah, but it's a different IT organization. But we're actually working with community mental health, providing them services and helping and assisting them, to get through
Was
this.
any of these people
No,
involved in that then?
no, they were not
It
involved.
might have been CMH, come to think
Yeah,
of it.
CMH had ransomware.
Okay.
situation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Smith?
Jaco, just, do you know the total? I mean, so obviously you look at this at first and think that it's, 2,690,000 times 4, but since you said a majority of them come out the first quarter, what are our total licensing?
I unfortunately don't have my general fund budget here, but if I remember correctly, it's between 4 and 1.5 million.
So half of
about
it
there.
almost is going out in
It's
the
about
first
half
quarter?
go out in the first quarter.
And then are all of our licensing and maintenance agreements throughout the county, do they all run through IT, or are there separate departments that have their own licensing and maintenance?
Most of our maintenance agreements run through us. I can tell you 90% of it. I don't really think there's many departments anymore. It used to be a problem for us, but I don't think there's many departments anymore that do stuff on their own and so on.
we
There are
like-
certain ones I cannot tell you. If somebody signs up with, for example, a web provider, and all they do is they go to a website, log in through HTTPS, a secure connection, and that's what they do, and that software that they purchase, and I wasn't aware of it, and they pay an annual fee for that. That is possible, but I don't think there's
Nothing
many
on
of
the
that
large scale?
personally, no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, Jake Oaks, this is where this is where I get you. Sorry, this is the guy I know named Paul Jake Oaks. And this is where I get you on stuff. It's not your fault, but I do have some questions on this. So Adobe 2020 maintenance agreement. In the package, if you guys look electronically, it's the 5th item down. It'll say Adobe 2020 maintenance. It'll say MNJ quote, if you guys want to look. And if you see here, you'll see a bill here, an invoice from MNJ Technologies. And if you look down, and I don't know if you're following me on this, but you get to Adobe Pro, right? Acrobat Pro. Now, we use that at our office. And I'm seeing here that MNJ, through a guy named Steven Minato, who works for us, correct? Mm-hmm. So he went through MNJ, and MNJ says, look, we can give you a 12-month renewal on Adobe Acrobat Pro, 290 units, it looks like, at $183.33 a piece. Now, if I go to Adobe directly, I got a number here for $144. So, I mean, I know it's a difference between 183 and 144, but, I know we had this discussion before with another product, which was called Photo Capture or whatever, because I use that in my office too. I mean, is there any way we can eliminate some of these middle folks, like MNJ? I understand they have to mark it up, they have to make a living too, but if we go directly to the software provider, in this case Adobe, it seems like if they sell us that many units, we should be able to get them at a cheaper price. What's your explanation for that?
So when it comes to Adobe, it's enterprise software. Part of what we get through Adobe is license management. It is an absolute nightmare for me to know what licenses is out on the network if I don't have license management. So I can go on a portal, we can log in and we can see exactly which license is assigned to who in our organization. And if I find a computer out there that doesn't have, not supposed to have that license on there, I remove it. It's obviously a liability issue. It's important for us. I cannot tell you that that's the only reason the cost is higher, but that is the portal that we have to work through to be able to manage it. It's the same thing with Microsoft. We have Microsoft licensing management. We go out and get the best pricing we can every single time it's due. And this coming year, actually, our Microsoft renewal is coming up. It's valid for 3 years. And then we'll shop again with different companies and find out what's the best price we can get.
And I get it. And I was just looking at that, and I saw that Dell Computers offers the same type of thing with an Acrobat Pro DC. Now, I don't know about it sounds like a licensing thing, because Dell said we'll give it to you for 3 years at $144 a unit. So, I know it's micromanaging, and I know it's...
I completely understand, Commissioner, and it's definitely something I will take into account and look at it and see, is there a way that we can do this cheaper? We truly constantly try to bring down those
And I know,
prices.
and this is getting into the leaves as opposed to the forest, and sometimes you have to look at the forest, and that's where you get some big savings. But it's frustrating. It's frustrating when I can see here that the government's paying $183.33 for 290 units, and I can look online and I can see it for $144 for other businesses or whatever.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
Commissioner Drollet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through to Jaco, the sheet before us, or the proposal before us, are these all items that we have existing ongoing contracts for? So nothing new is being added here. These are things which we have a binding contract for going into 2020. So I guess I asked that because I'm wondering what would happen if, in the process of approving the 2020 budget, the budget numbers were to change. These aren't something that we would be able to adjust in any way. Is that correct?
Yeah, the ones that are under contract, each and every one is different. For instance, I mentioned earlier the one for the sheriff's office with a Venetrac. That's a 5-year negotiated deal that we did with them because the product is becoming end of life. And we pushed them to get us a 5-year contract at a much reduced price because we wanted to make sure that we have enough time to replace that system. That, for instance, is a very particular one that's been negotiated over 5 years. Most of them is 3-year contracts, maintenance contracts, or maintenance or licensing contracts.
But other than the sheriff one, none of these are new contracts.
No.
They're all existing contracts.
There's nothing that is new.
Okay. And I appreciate that answer. Now, I looked, for example, on our budget document, and contract services in 2018 was $291,000, and then 2019 it's $855,000. So it's gone up, more than 100%. It's gone up 120, more than doubled in 2 years, from 291 to 855. So it's a concern, and I'm not sure this is a place to, weigh in on it, because these are contracts that have apparently already been agreed upon and approved. But I'm worried as I look at that line item go in 2 years, more than double. I see it happening here, and I'm hoping that I still get another line item and see it being reduced someplace else, because of the increased efficiencies. But unfortunately, I don't see them. So thank you for answering the question, Jacob. I appreciate it very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I just want to throw something out here, and I know Commissioner Leonetti was talking about some savings and then acknowledged that they're kind of minor savings and that maybe, the big trees, rather than the leaves. But I just want to throw out there for everybody voting on all of these all this time, and not this one in particular, but I don't want you to discount the leaves. One of the best sayings, if you've listened to it in your life, is watch your pennies and your dollars will take care of themselves. It's the little expenditures that keep adding up. Little licensing fees, little this, little that. And if we don't watch the little things, we have a hundreds of millions of dollar budget, so we don't really pay that much attention to $50,000 here and $40,000 there. It does add up, especially if everybody's looking at those numbers. So I appreciate you looking into what he had mentioned as far as those Adobe things go, and just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
No other speakers, please vote. Motion passes 10-0. Thank you, Jaco.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any new business, commissioners? Seeing none? I'm sorry. Commissioner.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been going through the 2020 budget in comparison to the 2019 adopted and amended. I'm kind of lost on the District Court for New Baltimore, where we adopt, and I don't want to start a firestorm here if there's a lot. It's C-23, where it was adopted for 1.3, amended to 2.4, and now being pushed to 2.5. What happened here? Yes.
2019 did not have the internal services, which went from 32,000 to $1 million.
Oh, I see it. 32 to...
$1 million.
Yeah, okay.
That was added there. But the difference right there is additional internal services that bumped up again, and I can't answer. I don't know the answer.
everything. Okay. Thank you. I'll put that in the folder. Thank you, Chair.
First, for any of you planning any amendments for the budget, Commissioner Drolet had called me and asked about, some potential amendments that he wanted to make to the budget. Instead of coming in at the last minute with amendments that may or may not be technically correct legally, I let him get a hold of our counsel, Pete, to throw his amendments at him and make sure that they fit within the charter and everything like that, so that we're not having this discussion at the last second if anyone brings amendments. And that being said, if anyone has amendments that they want to propose or are thinking of proposing, please let us know, and then we'll get you in contact with our attorney, so that way everybody has access to him to talk out different ideas that you may have for the budget coming up, number one. Number two, tomorrow we have the district courts. The courts are coming in. Before that, Pete's going to be here early to meet with anybody that has any ideas, and I know Leon does tomorrow, and anybody else that wants to talk about it. And Great Lakes Economic Counseling will be here tomorrow. A few of you met with them earlier in the year. They've been working with Crystal on some budgeting items, kind of like our group did with the resolutions for this year, kind of some ideas for next year. They're going to come in and present tomorrow at our meeting. However, they're going to be here early too, for any of you that want to sit down and talk with them. I think it's probably a good idea. They will be here at 1, so they'll be here from 1 all the way through the meeting. They're the former, let's see, oh geez, I don't have it. Former director of fiscal agency at Michigan House of Representatives, and former state treasurer and counselor. So, I mean, there's some guys with some pretty good background here in legislative finance and legislative budgeting, all nonpartisan, or well, not all, but I mean, the House, they worked both sides on finance for the legislature. So they'll be here tomorrow to talk about some things they worked with Crystal, and if anybody has any questions regarding the budget and some of the things we've done. They've looked at all of our resolutions, our ordinances, and kind of they have a presentation that they're going to give tomorrow. So if you can come in early, and I know Commissioner Carabelli and some of us have been discussing district courts that we are concerned with New Baltimore and Romeo, and maybe that's to come in, talk a little bit about that, and be at that budget meeting with the courts. They'll be here at 2 o'clock, yes. I think that's it.
So there's a pre-meeting at 2 o'clock tomorrow?
There's a pre-meeting, budget meeting, budget workshop with the courts. And our attorney will be here early, and this group will be here by 1. So if you want to come in and just kind of run over what's going on with our budget, some of the things they're going to talk about, so maybe it's not the first time you hear it as they're presenting it, might be a good idea. That's it.
Okay, no other new business? Commissioner Romano?
Friday morning, 11 a.m., we did that tree planting on the Sterling Relief Drain. We had probably 40 volunteers. Councilman Yanez was there, myself, a lot of people from the Drain Commission. We planted 75 trees. Our Drain Commissioner showed up with our executive, and they made their little presentation and left, planted 1 tree, so we appreciate that. Every help, everything helps. They're going to have another date that they're trying to get a total of 300 trees out there. Don't forget, this is on the grant that we received for $1 million and some, and everybody knows how much I like the grant. So I was out there with putting them on, and it was nasty. That's all I can tell you. All that rain, the drains were filled, the easements were filled, and it was strictly clay. But we managed to get in 75 trees, and I wanted to thank all you guys for your help out there. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. No other new business. Public participation, seeing no one in the public, close public participation. Motion to adjourn by Haw, supported by Sauger. Please vote. Meeting is adjourned.